Hello, everybody, and welcome to Tangled Silver Magazine's Our Ageless Lounge. Today we are talking with Minette Riordan. Did I get that right?
Close
Close.
enough.
Of Mindful Patterns. And I am so excited to bring her to you all today and introduce you for a couple of reasons. One, I just absolutely love this woman. And two, she is actually going to be one of our speakers at the Sisterhood Experience in September. So I'm just really excited that we get to share a little bit about her today and kind of give you a peek into what you might get from her if you're joining us in Estes Park in September. So, Minette, the first thing I'd like to ask everybody is when you think of midlife, what's your definition of a midlife woman for you?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I wish I had a simple answer. And before I answer, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for having me on the show today. Thank you for inviting me to speak in September. Super, super excited. Estes Park is home away from home. My mom lives up there. So, all kinds of juicy goodness. And I want to say to everyone, if you've never been to Estes Park, it is like a heaven on earth kind of place that once you go,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be trying to figure out how to get back because it's so beautiful to be right at the gateway to Rocky Mountain National Park. So I'm a fan. I went there first in 1976 with my family, and we were that family that went every summer. And then eventually my mom moved there full time. But part of my own creative journey has been around my connection to nature and to Estes Park. And how does that all tie into midlife? It ties into the work that I do. So for me, the definition of midlife is tricky. I really like how Chip Conley of Modern Elder Academy talks about midlife. He says if you take your age from 18 to when you estimate what age you're going to die. So most of us these days are going to live into 90, right? And I'm 59. So I'm really just past midlife, right? If I look at, from 20 to 90 is 70 years, right? So I'm just right there in the middle of midlife. Some people start it way in their 30s. And maybe a personal way to talk about it is when did I have my first midlife identity crisis? Probably in my 40s, not when I hit 50, but when I was in my 40s. My kids were getting older. I wasn't loving my business. My husband and I were so busy with careers and kids, we were disconnected from each other. I think that first time that I really went, who am I? Was when I kind of felt that sense of, oh, life is changing and I'm not sure who I am or where I'm going.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that that's the key thing. Like midlife, somebody there's not really a timetable that we can put on it, right? It's kind of how
No.
you perceive it. Because like some people start like menopausal symptoms earlier in life, but that's usually
Yes.
associated with midlife. So does that mean you're in midlife early on? Like no. So it is that is an interesting piece. I like to consider more so than the word midlife. I like to consider myself an ageless woman, and
Yes, I love that.
not because I'm afraid to share you with my age. I'm going to be 57 this August, so I'm right up there with you. I like to share ageless because I think that's more about the mindset, right? Like I'm not trying to strive to stay young. I'm also not just waiting for the door, death's door to be knocking on my door. So I like the idea of ageless because I feel like our age doesn't define us. It's
Hmm.
who we are individually, what we're doing in life, how active and mobile we are. It's really in the mindset is the first piece of being an ageless woman. And so that's kind of why I call it the ageless lounge because I like to hear what people's thoughts are about midlife, but then I also like the word ageless versus, um, I don't know, versus like pro life, not pro life, pro age, pro age, or
Yeah.
so you can see that these
Yes.
are real great talks because we just keep going. We don't edit those things out. We just have fun with them. But it's like there's pro age and there's anti age, and that pick like everybody says pick a team, and I'm always like I don't want to pick a team. I'm going to go ageless woman all the way because
Yeah.
again, both of those two groups, ageless and pro age, are all trying to accomplish the same exact thing as women. I
Yes.
believe we all want, which is to be our best today,
Yes.
right? So I think
Whatever day that is at 35, 45, 55, or 85, we want to be our best selves, right? And so I love that concept of being ageless because I also think it reminds us of the depth of wisdom that we bring. And I hear from a lot of the women that I work with in their 50s, 60s, and 70s that they want to feel relevant. They want to feel like they're making a contribution. And I think what we all want as human beings is to be seen and to be heard. And there's this sense that when we hit a certain age point, we become irrelevant and invisible. And so one of the things I love about Tangled Silver magazine is that you're making space for women's visibility, for celebrating who they are at any age and stage.
I think that's really important, and thank you for that. I mean, that was one of the key reasons for me because I was looking around going, I was going to embrace my silver hair, and it's not all about being silver hair, but that's kind of how the magazine started because there wasn't anything out there that actually made it look like it was a beauty option, right? It was color those grays. There was nothing that showed it as a viable beauty option,
Yeah.
and that made me really frustrated. And then when we start diving into it, then there's all these other conversations around aging that make it sound like we're supposed to just expect to shrivel up and disappear. So not fair, right? Because so many of us, a
Or
lot of
we
people,
have to take pills,
yes,
injections, right? And get things lifted and tucked and expanded and shrunk.
right,
And,
right.
it's like
Uh,
nothing to do with being authentic or true to ourselves. It all makes me feel like, I'll speak from the I statement, I'm less than because I'm 59, right? And I'm not thin and I don't have long hair and I don't wear designer clothes or whatever the trend is. I agree, it's very frustrating. So I love having a magazine where I'm looking at it going, oh, look, there's pictures of women like me.
right? It's nice to have something that just shows the everyday woman and isn't showing you all the glamour shots. Like I love the glamour shots, and honestly, this next issue has some really glamour shots for style. But what I love about the woman we're spotlighting in her style is that she does a lot of thrifting along with her news, so it's very about sustainable fashion.
Cool.
And
How
just
exciting.
again, because I feel like that kind of is what we do, right? Like when you come to
Mhm.
midlife, we don't want to toss ourselves out and forget it. We're kind of getting to refresh, like kind of restart.
Yes.
Kids are gone if you've had kids, or maybe you're doing career changes, or maybe you're in the situation where you've been widowed or maybe divorced now. Like we're kind of getting like a refresh. And I love the idea that we start encouraging women to celebrate that and be willing to talk about it versus trying to stay hidden or like, oh, we can't talk about menopause. Oh, we can't talk about finances. Oh, we can't talk about this, that, so I love that piece. But I want to hear, tell me a little bit more about what you do because I love that you are artistic. That was one of the things that drew me to you because I love art. I love art in any form. I've got my grandkids doing crafts constantly with me. That's all about. So tell me how you incorporate that into mindful patterns with your clients.
Yeah, thank you for asking. So I was definitely one of those people who would have said my whole life I was creative. I have done a lot of writing in my life. I have a doctorate in literature and poetry from Stanford and never saw myself as an artist. And then I don't know. So we moved to California in 2012, long story, and we've been in Colorado now for a couple of years. And I started painting. I discovered a painting mentor. I started intuitive painting, really using painting as a way to heal, transform my life. I didn't expect it to take over my life and become really sort of the core of what I was doing. And even the first 5 years, I was making art, I was selling art, I was incorporating art and creativity into my business then, which was coaching other artists and creatives how to make money in their business. I'm a business and marketing geek. I love building businesses. And all of a sudden, I found myself having this internal battle with the word artist. What is an artist? Am I an artist? Is artist fine art? But I make art, I sell art. I am an artist. And it was such a mindset shift. And I think so many of us have creativity scars around art making and what we define as creativity. So to me, creativity and art are not the same things at all. That our creativity, like creating a magazine, is an expression of your creativity. The way that you design it, you put it together is a beautiful expression of your creativity. Doing crafts with your kids, baking, gardening, dancing, photography. Like there are so many unique expressions. Software engineers, people who design airplanes and cars, like scientists are so creative in their thinking. And I think a lot of times we have this predefined notion of what creativity is. And I'm on a bit of a warpath, a soapbox, if you will, to kind of change how we see ourselves as creative, because all human beings have infinite creative potential. And I believe when we're all working in our highest creative genius, we can solve all the world's problems, but we got to believe that we're creative first. So in my programs, I use art as a tool and a process for self-discovery and personal growth. Most of my women are in that space of who am I? I don't know what's next. I've lost my purpose. And is it too late to write the book or start the new career, the new business, or a new hobby, whatever? And what I found is that as we get older, we get smarter and wiser, no doubt about that. But we also are so used to figuring things out with our heads. We're so used to thinking our way out of most of our problems. And we've lost touch with our hearts, with our intuition. So I use art as a powerful process for healing and transformation to help women get out of that spinning hamster wheel of overthinking everything and back into their hearts to find the truth of who they are. In the same way that you use your beautiful magazine and teach women that ageless, that beauty is ageless, I believe it's the same thing, that our creative potential is ageless and that we have infinite opportunity to constantly reinvent ourselves and to share our best self with the world, whatever that looks like for us, whether it's on a big stage like writing a book, or whether you're making art with your grandkids, right? It all matters, but at the core of it, it's using art as a powerful tool for healing and transformation.
I love that. I love that. And I can totally relate to saying that because like when I'm doing something, I do not think of myself, I'm creative. I have not really ever thought of myself as being artistic. And yet I have things that I have done and I have done that I've created that actually are art. I have carved an elephant into a piece of stone, sandstone. That
Wow.
is a piece of art that like I didn't really think of it that way. I used a picture, I didn't trace it, but I used a picture and looked at the picture and drew it out with pencil into the sandstone and then carved it out actually with a little knife. But I was like, I think I was about 16 or 17 when I did that. But like I never thought of myself as an artist. So when you just were kind of saying that, I was just kind of going, huh, okay, huh, yeah, okay. I like that idea again of rediscovering our intuitions and feeling them because I think sometimes we get into our heads, can't do this, can't do that, or society's going, you can't do this, you can't do that. Oh, you're over 50, forget that, right? So I love that we have to get out of our heads, and what better way to do it in a artistic manner where you're finding that healing path. I love
And
that.
playful, right? And playful. I think that as a culture here in the United States, we've lost our capacity for play. We Play has been dismissed as a waste of time. It's not productive. You're not making money. You're not taking
It's
care of
frivolous.
everyone else. It's
Yeah.
frivolous. That's a perfect word for it. And yet, if you read studies on play, play is how we learn. From the time
Yeah.
we are small children, from the time animals are young. Think about, a group of lion cubs or a bunch of puppies, right? How they learn. My cats, when they were kittens, how they learn. They're stalking and hunting and
Yeah.
wrestling and playing, just like kids. And kids play games and they make up games. And we draw like purple trees and orange skies because we don't have any preconceived notions of what things have to look like, or we don't have any of those expectations on ourselves that we see in our heads has to come out perfectly on the paper. So perfectionism is one of the killers of play. Play is the I would say is the opposite to perfectionism. And I find so play is number one. The number two thing is beginner's mind. So the Zen principle of being in beginner's mind. And as we get older, it gets harder and harder to be in beginner's mind because we know a lot and we don't want
Or
to
we
be
think we do.
judged, or we think we do.
Right?
And we don't want to be judged. We don't want to be shamed. We don't want to be embarrassed or told that it's not good enough. So we often don't even try to put something new out there. But what I've discovered is we can approach life and midlife in particular with curiosity, with beginner's mind, with a little bit of wonder and a lot of play. We can reframe our expectations for ourselves and what's possible going forward.
Nice. I absolutely love that. I think that's what a lot of us are attempting to do. And I think that doing it through art or doing it with someone along the lines of yourself is a fabulous way to go. Thank you for sharing what you do and giving everybody kind of an
You.
insight of rethinking that creativity versus art, and how to work those into their being.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, who doesn't
so
love a brand new box of crayons? I don't care how old
right,
you are. It's hard not to love a box of crayons. That
right,
waxy smell, the big box with the sharpener in the back, right? You
yes,
know,
yes.
I'm 59 and I love a good box of crayons, brand new, those
Oh
sharp
yeah,
tips, and
oh
they
yeah. They're
just
so
take
much
us
fun.
back. Yes, and they take us back to those early days when there was no judgment. I love using crayons in my work with people because you can't draw very well with a crayon no matter how hard you try. Right?
That's
Because
true.
they're
Yeah,
not designed for to be drawing tools, they're designed to be coloring tools. So using crayons puts us back in a beginner's mind and maybe even a little bit of having to let go of perfectionism because the tool isn't designed for that.
yeah. So let me ask you this. So did you color outside the lines or in the lines in those coloring books?
Yeah, it's a great question. I loved coloring books. I still love coloring books. I would say probably a combination of both. I think I got better at coloring outside the lines the older that I got. I
Mhm,
think when I was a kid, I was definitely and there's something very mindful and calming about being inside the lines.
mhm.
And, I don't think anyone ever said you have to color inside the lines, but there's something natural and normal about staying inside the lines for me that was comforting.
I hear you. I think I was one that did both as well. Although I do remember doing a lot of, I would outline the drawing, whatever I was coloring, I would outline it with the
Mhm.
color that I was using and then go in and color like a little bit of a lighter shade. But then I always had to go outside of that and do some sort of like polka dots or something kind of crazy
Yes.
just to make it feel like it was, so kind of that combination as well. But for whatever
Yes.
reason, I always felt like I had to like outline it first. So and you're right. When you look at kids, they just go in and kind of go, ah, in the beginning, right? Especially when they're really
Yes.
young. And I
Yeah.
love the idea that kind of like, that's sort of what I'm hearing is you're kind of encouraging women at midlife to kind of like, let's get outside the lines. Let's play again. Let's
Yeah. That's
go
thank
out and buy yourself a new pack of crayons.
Exactly, and a blank journal or a kid's coloring book. So there's something interesting. Adult coloring books have been in the top 10 bestsellers on Amazon, one or another of them, for well over a decade now. They've been trending and they've never really stopped trending. And I find so many clients intimidated by many of the adult coloring books because they have all these little teeny tiny spaces. And it
Mhm.
takes so much patience and it takes way too long. So I'm a big fan of get kids coloring books with really simple designs and make it fun and make it fast. Like the biggest concern that so many of us have is, well, I want to be creative, but how am I going to fit it in? And it only takes 5 to 15 minutes a day of putting color on paper to shift our mindset, to bring us a little bit of joy, and to have a completely different outlook on our relationship with creativity. We don't need hours or days. We don't need to go on sabbatical or retreat, although all those things are amazing and fun. But I find that every day, just 15 minutes of color on the page can really shift our mindset. And so keep it simple. I think if I had any advice to people wanting to reconnect to their creativity, and then there are so many great resources for expressive and narrative arts for using. I'm a big fan of intuitive collage. I'm a big fan of intuitive painting, where it's not about the product, it's about the process. Right. So the more that we learn to let go of our need to be the next Georgia O'Keeffe and we can, or the next Martha Stewart, or, whoever your creative idol is. I was just watching, I am on this PC and I'm usually a Mac girl, and it shows me silly videos and things that I normally wouldn't see. So the one today was a young woman who must be a current contestant on American Idol. And I don't know why I clicked on it. Something about what it said. Oh, she sang an original song. And it's like gutsy on American Idol to sing an original song. And so I clicked on it and I listened to her, and she was just amazing. I so admired her courage to put herself out there. And I think it's that ownership of our own genius from the get go that we lose track of over the years of criticism or feeling invisible or not being in a career we love, or we get to the top of our career and then we get bored and we go, now what? Now what? And we rarely know how to get back to that. Who was that, 15-year-old singing on American Idol? Who was that 10-year-old in a fashion show or in a play at school? Who was that 5-year-old that was like staging plays for her whole family? We all have that creative expression inside of us. And I think it is so important in midlife. And I find that women are often longing for this in midlife, is to reconnect to that creativity, to find that creative spark. There's some sense of our own yearning. It was talked about by Maureen Murdoch in The Heroine's Journey about there's one stage in particular that we all go through where we have a yearning to reconnect to our creativity. And I think it's because we finally have time to think about it. Right? The kids are getting older or maybe gone. I'm a very happy empty nester, right? There's a spaciousness in my life that I've never had before. And it can be easy to feel lost and wonder how to fill that time. And I'm a big fan of fill it with things that are fun and playful.
I like it. I like it. This is why we're friends, Minette. This is why
Yes.
I love
Yeah.
your energy and your radiance, because it's just
Thank you.
about, again, that playfulness of life that I think sometimes we just get too serious, and especially in midlife. Yes, are there serious things happening that we have to
Oh,
address? Of course there are. But
yeah.
like, why get so bogged down with that you forget to be playful? Because maybe that playfulness is going to help make that little transition in midlife a little bit easier. Like, I joke and laugh around things that are happening with me. I'm in the middle of a tooth transplant. So
Mm,
I have a retainer with a tooth in place. The situation has taken a lot longer than they projected. So
yeah.
I could be upset about it. I could whine about it. Instead, sometimes it's just fun to play with. I can pop that tooth out, and my grandkids think, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing, Nona?" But like, you have to be playful with yourself, and
Yes.
you have to
Yes.
accept that perfection is not required in
Right.
any way, shape, or form. Whoever started teaching people that we had to be perfect, I don't know where they ever came from, because perfection is not possible.
No, it's
So,
not. Yeah.
and we just have to embrace and have fun with ourselves. So let me ask you this and a couple questions for you. So what, because you're going to be up at our event, what is one of the key things you're hoping to get out of joining us in the sisterhood experience?
For me, it's always about connection with the other women. I'm a huge collector of stories and dreams. Like my whole career, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm on my third business, has been in one way or another related to listening to people's stories. And I get so excited by hearing other people's stories. So I would say the connection with other women is top of the list.
Awesome. And I don't know about you, but since it was kind of funny. You said you've been going to Estes Park since '76. That's about the same
Yeah.
time frame I started going up to Estes Park. So my
Nice.
parents
Nice.
moved out to Colorado. So we have that in connection. But what is it about? I know why I chose to have the very first sisterhood experience in Estes Park. Can you tell me what it is? I know it's about nature, but like, what is like the biggest spark about Estes that really just you're like, yes, Estes?
Boy, that's a good question. So the natural beauty is spectacular. There's, depending which highway you come up there, you kind of come up over one of these from out of these two beautiful canyons, and you see the entire Rocky Mountains spread in front of you. I have a pretty intimate relationship with Long's Peak, which is our 14er, one of our 14,000 feet mountains that has a lot of history. It's called Beaver Mountain by the indigenous people that lived here many moons ago. I love the history of Estes Park. It has a fascinating history. And it has a really freaking awesome little downtown with one of my favorite independent bookstores, with one of my favorite shops for buying pens and notebooks and journals and a cup of coffee at the same time, called Ink and Brew. And
Nice.
so I have a couple of really favorite spots in Estes Park. I think that they do a phenomenal job of the landscaping. So in the summer and well into September, the flowers everywhere, like it's a very
Yeah.
vibrant, alive for such a tiny little, really tourist mountain town. It has a vibrancy that I think is very, very inviting. They have a really active art center there where I've taught at the art center in Estes Park. So there's something, I don't know, I've been going for so long. But I don't know about you, when people come to visit, I love taking them to
Oh,
Estes
yeah.
Park. Yeah, and my current favorite restaurant is Bird and Jim in Estes Park, which was named after Isabella Bird and Jim. I'm going to forget his last name. They were two of the early explorers of the area, and Isabella Bird is one of the women pioneers. It's famous in Estes Park and has a really inspiring story.
Nice. I have not been to that restaurant. When we go up there, we tend to get caught up, and there's two main reasons I love going up when I'm in Essex and walking around. I have to go to the taffy shop. I'm sure you know which one I'm
Nice.
talking about. Yeah, you
Yes,
have to go to
totally.
the taffy
Not
shop.
any taffy shop. It has to be
The taffy
the yes.
coffee shop. Taffy shop. Yeah, it is the best, everybody. So when you come up, I'm going to be telling you to go to it. I'm going to probably have taffy throughout the event because you
That's
can't go to
fun.
Estes without having their taffy. And then there's
Yes.
also a little place called the Caramel Crisp that is like a little tiny little building. I mean, it's so tiny when you walk in that there's too many people in there. You're like bumping each other's little tushes, but they make the best fudge. And it's a town, so there's lots of stuff. There's lots of fudge. There's lots of taffy, but I think those are two of the best places, and those always come to my mind when I think Estes Park as well.
That's so
So
fun. I hadn't even thought about it from the food angle quite so much, but so many years of taffy, caramel apples,
no,
great ice cream.
yeah,
Nice if you
well,
like
and just
brew pubs and wine, there's that
yeah,
too. There's a
there's
lovely
the
tea shop.
hiking. Yeah. Yeah, there's
Yes.
all these. So there's something for everybody to do. So when you're
Yeah.
not in with the girls have going through our experience for
Yes.
3 days, there's lots of shops to go into. There's hikes to go on. If
Yeah.
you're a history buff, Stanley Hotel. I mean, you and I both know the Stanley Hotel is just an amazing part of history for us.
Yes, it
Um,
is.
I
Yeah.
I'm a horror buff a little bit, so for me, the biggest piece about that is that that was the hotel that inspired The Shining.
Yeah.
So I always like to share that because I am a rated B horror flick movie gal thanks to
That's
my grandmother.
hilarious. When they
Upstate
first
New
put
York.
in the museum in the basement, I used to volunteer as a docent in the museum, and my mom did ghost tours, and we were good
I love
friends with people that had the old Stanley steamers, so we got to go for
yeah,
rides in the Stanley steamers. The Estes Park History Museum is also lovely and, close to where we're gonna be also, right at the community
yep,
center. The,
yep,
History Museum is really, really sweet, and we're gonna also be really close to the lake. There's a beautiful Lake Estes right when you come into town, you
yep.
see the lake, and they have stand-up paddling, kayaking, uh, patio boats, like anything that you want. So, and it's one of my favorite walks in Estes Park when it's too snowy still to get up into the mountains.
Yeah.
And so I love it's like a 3.5 mile walk around the lake. So it's a beautiful early morning spot for a walk. So, yeah, no lack of things to do for sure.
Well, I hope that everybody listening will think about joining us. You can go find out information over at tangledsilvermagazine.com. If you want to connect with Minette, tell us how they can connect with you outside of here, and I'll make sure to share it elsewhere. But tell us how we can connect with you from here.
Sure. The easiest way to connect with me is my website, which is just my name, MinetteRiordan.com. And one of my favorite places to hang out is on YouTube. I have a YouTube live show called Painting in Your PJs with Minette. And it's also youtube.com/ at Dr. Minette Riordan. I'm pretty much Dr. Minette Riordan on every platform. Easy to find, but come check me out on YouTube. That's where I like to hang out and play and connect.
Yay! And hopefully you'll join us and you can get to meet this wonderful woman in person, do big hugs. I tell everybody if you're not a hugger, let us know because we can abide by that. But the two of us
Yes,
are big huggers, so if you're there, most likely,
100%.
unless you say no, you're getting hugs. So,
I think we
Minette,
were
thank
hugging
you.
within like 5 minutes of meeting each other for sure.
I, I think so. I think that's the energy that we're going to have at this event.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
thank you for today. Thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
your wonderfulness on the Ageless Lounge, and we will see you soon and hope to see everybody else for the next one. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Robin.